Eagles. Eagles.
What is up, everybody? Welcome in to the Legal Hands to the Face show. The Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0. You couldn't guess it by the tone in the city. A lot of people are worried about this football team. I'm here to tell you tonight why we need to enjoy the ride. But before we get into it, guys, we got a great show planned for tonight. At 7 o'clock, we're going to be joined by my man, Mark Farzetta from The Farzy Show, my partner in crime on the JAKIB Sports halftime show for the Eagles. And at 7:30, like we're joined every week by Dr. Chris Radcliffe to break down some of these injuries. Unfortunately, the injury bug has gotten this Philadelphia Eagles team, so we're going to find out if we can expect some players coming back, if Cam Jurgens can get back, because he went out. He was in a walking boot yesterday, so we'll get into that. But we should have a great show planned. I want to jump right in to this Philadelphia Eagles game from yesterday. And before we do, I want to start the show like I do every week with a little Eagles trivia. So we were watching the game yesterday. The Commanders were punting to Britton Covey. Seth Joyner turned to me in the green room and said, let's see Covey take one back here on this punt return. And I was thinking, man, when was the last time the Philadelphia Eagles had a punt return for a touchdown? If you follow me on Instagram, I did a video on this in the summertime. So I'll give you the answer at the end of the show. The last time the Philadelphia Eagles had a punt return for a touchdown and who it was, it may surprise you. I think you're going to like the name. But let's jump in, guys. Eagles win in overtime yesterday, 34-31 against the Washington Commanders. It didn't have to be that difficult. Leading up to the game, I thought the Eagles were going to win easily. But it is a division game. We know NFC East games especially are never slam dunk wins. They're never going to be easy. And for whatever reason, the Washington Commanders have played the Eagles tough the last few years. But the Eagles get the W, and that is all that matters. I'm going to break it down. We're going to take a look at the offense. We're going to take a look at the defense. But at the end of the day, the Eagles win the game. They win against a division opponent, and they are 4-0. And one thing we've learned about this team, I said it last week, I'll say it again this week. Under Nick Sirianni and with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, this team has an unbelievable ability to overcome adversity. Jalen Hurts is 21-1 in his last 22 regular season starts. I put out a tweet today. I said, look, I'm going to analyze this Philadelphia Eagles team because that is what I do. But at the end of the day, don't forget to enjoy the ride because we are watching a team win at an unprecedented clip. 21-1 in his last 22 regular season starts. We got to stop worrying about January. We got to stop worrying about if they can beat the Chiefs or the Bills or whoever it's going to be in the Super Bowl and enjoy October. Enjoy it. We have a team that's 4-0. Yeah, let's analyze it. Let's talk about areas they can improve. But this Philadelphia Eagles team is the first team in 25 years to lose a Super Bowl and start the season 4-0. The last team to do it was the 1998 Green Bay Packers. So when I talk about how this team has an uncanny ability to overcome adversity, this is what I'm talking about. And you look at Nick Sirianni as the head coach. We talked about it last week, about the culture that he has built. He's a good football coach. His regular season record is 27-11. That gives him a winning percentage of 7-11. To put that into perspective, and I am not comparing him to these coaches, he's got a long way to go. But you look at Bill Belichick's regular season winning percentage, 659. Big Red, Andy Reid, regular season winning percentage, 642. Sirianni's got a long way to go. He's got to do it for a lot longer. But he is winning over 700% of the regular season games. That is unbelievable to have a winning percentage of 7-11. So let's enjoy it. These are, I think John McMullen here on the JAKIB Sports Network said on Birds 365, whether we know it or not, these are the glory days for the Philadelphia Eagles team. So enjoy it. And when we talk about adversity, they had to face adversity yesterday. Commanders come out, surprised a lot of people, including me. I did not think Sam Howell and that that defensive front was going to be able to not get sacks on Howell. I thought that Washington Commanders offensive line was going to give up a lot of sacks. But the Sam Howell come right out to a 7-0 lead. What do the Eagles do? Battling adversity. Come right down the field, score, make it 7-7. Commanders go up 17-7. What do the Eagles do after that? They go on a tear on offense. They put up 17 unanswered points. They put up 222 yards and held the Commanders to 23. At that point, I thought the game was over. It wasn't. Too many penalties, too many missed opportunities. We're going to get into all of it, what the offense needs to do better, what the defense needs to do better. But again, they battle adversity. The game gets tied up. They win it in overtime. And let's talk about quite possibly the most clutch kicker, maybe clutch player we have ever seen in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform, Jake Elliott. Hits a 54-yarder yesterday in overtime to win it. And it was reminding me of what he did in 2017. A lot of people, we remember that 2017 magical run. Well, in week 3, Eagles played the Giants, an 0-2 Giants team, a team that really had no business being on the same field with that Eagles team. And it was a close game. And how did that game end? Jake Elliott kicks a 61-yard field goal in his first game in an Eagles uniform to win it. And then the Eagles go on a tear. So we can't get too carried away. Hey, they won in overtime. They should have beaten, crushed this Commanders team. A win is a win. You probably heard it a ton of times already. Jalen Hurts, keep the main thing the main thing. Well, do it. Keep the main thing the main thing. This team is 4-0. They're battling adversity. They're the first team in 25 years to start 4-0 after losing a Super Bowl. They overcame 11 penalties, missed opportunities on defense. Enjoy the ride. Now, with all that being said, let's jump in and talk about things that they can improve because there is a lot. Let's start on that offensive side of the ball. All offseason, if you follow me on social media, I post daily content. Be sure you're subscribed to Legal Hands to the Face, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, everywhere. But I was posting content all summer long about how I wasn't really worried about the offense. What's up, Jason A-Team? All is good, my man. Thanks for checking in. And guys, please engage in that chat. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe. I want to engage. I want to see your comments. I see Jalen Jenkins. That 61-yarder by Jake Elliott in 2017 was the start of a run. That is right. It was the start of their run. So let's hope this is the start of another run with this big kick. But you look at that offense, all offseason, I was saying, I'm not worried about the offensive personnel. The question mark coming into this season wasn't the personnel. Really, they only lost 2 starters. One was Miles Sanders. They replaced him with DeAndre Swift, who looks excellent. Didn't have as good of a game yesterday as he had the 2 weeks before it, but he's fine. Hey, Barbara, good to see you. Yeah, it was fun to be on the battleship. It really was. And they lost Isaac Sayamala at right guard. He's been replaced by Cam Jurgens, who was playing very well. We're going to talk to Dr. Radcliffe later in the show about how much time we may expect to see Jurgens out. Sirianni said today it was a week-to-week injury. But we weren't that concerned about the personnel. It was more the play caller, Brian Johnson. And I thought he left a lot to be desired in the first couple of weeks of the season. I was not a huge fan of some of the play calling in the first couple of weeks. Thanks, Cue Ball the Bird. I appreciate you, man. But I wasn't a huge fan of some of the play calls in the first couple of weeks of the season. I thought he got better last week. I really did. I didn't like some of the play designs early on, but I thought he got better last week. And I may be in the minority here, but I didn't think that he was that bad yesterday. I kind of like the play calls. We're going to get into the 3rd and 11 in the fourth quarter down at the 16-yard line. That I don't understand. I know Sirianni tried to defend it today. Don't understand that. But Brian Johnson did some really good things in this game. That first touchdown pass to A.J. Brown was a wonderful play call by Brian Johnson. It was a great play design by Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni. The first touchdown where Hurts threw it deep left side to A.J. Brown was another double move, and what they did was they had Dallas Goedert running a quick bubble screen, or at least a bubble screen look. Hurts took a look at Goedert, corner. Even if he looks in the backfield for a second, Brown's by him already. Beautiful play. Hurts hits A.J. Brown. Great call. Now let's get into that one I said that was a question mark for me, and that was the 3rd and 11 from the 16-yard line in the fourth quarter. That one I didn't understand. You hand off the ball, and not only are you handing the ball off, but you're giving it to Kenny Gainwell. Not saying I would have liked a play call if you gave it to DeAndre Swift, but maybe it would have been a little bit better. Give the guy an opportunity, but you gave it to Kenny Gainwell in the fourth quarter, trying to make it a 2-score game, and now you have to settle for a field goal. Didn't like that call, but overall, I thought Brian Johnson was better yesterday. I'd like to hear from you guys in the chat. What do you think about Brian Johnson as a play caller? Have you seen him improve over the last 4 weeks? I have. I have confidence that this offense is going to be just fine. And if you were watching the JAKIB Sports pregame show yesterday, I was talking to Seth Joyner about how when you compare the 2022 Eagles offense to the 2023 Eagles offense, they are getting the same net result, just in a little bit different of a way. They were running the ball more before this week, but we saw that passing game come to life. But just listen to some of these statistics, and you tell me that this offense doesn't sound like a dominant offense again. Everyone thought the 2022 offense was dominant. Listen to some of these stats. Last year, the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles offense averaged 389 yards a game, which was number 3 in the league. This year, they're averaging 392 yards a game, actually 3 yards better. Last year, they averaged 5.9 yards a play. This year, 5.6. Last year, 28.1 points per game. This year, 29.5 points a game. This offense is going to be just fine. A.J. Brown, absolute stud, has 9 catches for 131 yards last week, follows it up with 9 catches for 175 yards this week. Devontae Smith, 7 catches, 78 yards. Jalen Hurts looked like the Jalen Hurts from last year throwing the football. We'll talk about him running the ball in a second. But throwing the football, he goes 319 yards. And what I found most impressive, 8.6 yards an attempt. That was by far the best day of the year for Jalen Hurts. He only threw for 170 against New England, 193 against Minnesota, 277 against Tampa Bay. We saw improvement, and he got better this week, 319, and he had 8.6 yards a carry. I'd like to see them get Dallas Goedert more involved. I think everybody would. He's on my fantasy team, so I really want to see them get him involved. But Dallas Goedert is doing an excellent job in the running game. Sirianni mentioned it today. I talked about it last week. He's one of the highest rated run blockers from the tight end position in the entire NFL, but they have to get him involved. He is too damn good to only have, I think it's 13 catches for 85 yards, something like that. He's too good. Get him involved in the passing game. But you can't be mad at this offense. They're putting up points. They're putting up a lot of yards. They are winning games. That is the most important. One thing, I want some comments on this in the chat. I put an Instagram video about it. What did you guys think about the decision to throw it deep to A.J. Brown with only a minute and 49 seconds left in that fourth quarter? So let's set the tone again of what it was. The score was 24-24. It's 2nd and 4 from the 28-yard line, 149 left. The Tampa Bay, that's last week. The Washington Commanders had just used their second timeout. Do you run the football there, try to get a first down, run the clock out, kick a field goal, game over? Or did you like the aggressiveness by A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts? It looked like Hurts changed the play at the line of scrimmage. He read single coverage on A.J. Brown. They go to a double move. He threw a beautiful pass, throws a strike to A.J. Brown. It was a great play. The question, though, is, was it the right play? Was it the right play? And I see Cue Ball the Bird hated the last touchdown. Run Swift 3 straight times if you have to. Kick the field goal to go home. We didn't come to play extra football. And then you got right under him, dank Kelly Green Burrito, that you can't believe fans are thinking this way. So I put a poll on my Instagram. Head on over to Legal Hands to the Face on Instagram. I put a poll. It's pretty split. A lot of people are saying, hey, be aggressive. Play to win the game. Anything can happen if you try to run the ball there. You could get a holding penalty. You could have a fumble. You could have a turnover. Play to win the game. In the moment when it happened, I was watching the game. We were on the battleship for the pre-half and post-game shows through JAKIB Sports, and I instantly turned to Seth Joyner and Derek Gunn and Mark Farzetta and said, I don't like that. Run the ball. Run the clock out. But now that I've had time to reflect on it, and I said this earlier today on Instagram, I was okay with it. And this is why I was okay with it. We needed a big feel-good play like that from our passing game and Jalen Hurts. You saw how fired up Jalen Hurts was after that big throw. We needed that. And if you're playing against Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or one of these top-tier quarterbacks, don't give them the ball back. But when you're playing against Sam Howell and the Washington Commanders, who've given up one of the most sacks in the NFL, they've turned the ball over pretty much more than anyone in the NFL. I'm okay with us being aggressive and putting it on our defense. Now, what I wasn't okay with was the penalty. You can't take a penalty there. Now, I didn't necessarily love that the referee threw that flag. He didn't do much. But A.J. Brown can't even take the chance there. The game is over. Don't put a 15-yard penalty. And if you look at what happens, Commanders get one last shot with 2 seconds left to tie that game. Without that 15-yard penalty, which turned out to be about a 12-yard penalty because of the way the kickoff was. Instead of getting the ball at the 25, they got it at the 37. That could have been the difference of those 2 seconds. You got to be smarter there. A.J. Brown said it. Didn't like the penalty. Didn't like that the ref threw it. But great play by A.J. Brown. Great catch. I was okay with the aggressiveness. In the moment, I wasn't. But the more I think about it, I was okay with the aggressiveness. But let's jump over to the defense, because this is where the Eagles really need to improve. And Barbara Carroll, you just reminded me, and I'm glad you did, Riverboat Ron not going for 2 shocked me as well. He is called Riverboat Ron. Mark Farzetta, as soon as they scored that touchdown, says they're going for 2. It's Riverboat Ron. And he kicks an extra point. Really, really surprised me. But let's talk about this defense. And I said, look, in the offseason, I wasn't worried about the offense. I thought that this offense was going to be just fine once Brian Johnson got his feet under him with calling plays. But we got a lot of new personnel. We had a lot of injuries. And we'll get into that in a second. So I'm going to start going through some stats here. But I will talk about the personnel in a second. I understand they were banged up. But this is a problem. Sam Howell and the Washington Commanders were 25th in the NFL coming into this game. They only threw for 182 yards per game, and the Philadelphia Eagles let him throw for 290 yards. Outside of that game against Baker Mayfield, which they really shut down the pass, this Eagles defense has given up 290 to Sam Howell, 316 to Mac Jones, and 364 to Kirk Cousins. It's not going to be good enough. Not going to be good enough. And we'll talk about the personnel because I do not like some of the things that are going on in that secondary. Coming into this game, Commanders, 20th in the NFL in points per game. They were averaging only 19. This defense lets them put up 31 points. And I thought, hey, Eagles are going to get a lot of turnovers this week. Commanders had turned the ball over more than 30 teams in the league. They were 31st in the entire NFL with 8 turnovers in 3 games. The Eagles don't get a single turnover. And they had their opportunities. Sam Howell threw that ball up in the end zone. Terrell Edmonds, you got to catch that ball. You have to come down with that ball in the end zone. Good teams make plays in the red zone. And the red zone has been a major problem for this Eagles defense. Coming into the game, the Philadelphia Eagles were 26th in the NFL in the red zone on defense. They are letting teams score touchdowns 70% of the time coming into this game. And it only got worse. And the Commanders, they were in the bottom of the league. They were only putting touchdowns in 50% of the time in the red zone. You know what they did yesterday? 4 out of 5. I'm talking about third down. 4 out of 5 in the red zone for 80%. So this Philadelphia Eagles team let one of the worst red zone offenses in the NFL score touchdowns 80% of the time. That's something that needs to improve. And third down, they're letting teams convert way too much on third down. Way too much on third down. Coming into the game, the Eagles, on third down, we're letting teams convert 46% of the time, which was 25th in the NFL. And they let the Washington Commanders go 8 of 17 on third down, which was 47%. But it was even worse than that because there was a couple long third downs. One was 3rd and 17. They let them pick up 16 yards, and then they converted on 4th down. So this defense needs to be better in the red zone, needs to be better on third down. Good teams get off the field, and they don't let teams score touchdowns in the red zone. And if you're going to play a defense similar to that Vic Fangio style of defense, and I think Sean Desai brings the pressure a lot more than what Gannon was doing last year. I like some of the blitzes. We'll talk about Nicholas Morrow in a second having 3 sacks. But if you're going to play that kind of bend but don't break type of defense, you need to be good in the red zone. Last season, the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get this stat for you. Last season, the Philadelphia Eagles defense in the red zone was, I had this stat somewhere, but they were pretty damn good in the red zone. Here we go. Yeah, I think they were in the tops of the league last year in 2022, and I'm not getting the stat now, but they were really good in the red zone last year. They were in the top half of the league. I know that. That was that Jonathan Gannon style of defense, but 11 penalties, a couple of them on third down. You got to be better in the red zone. You got to be better on third down. But I see all of you guys in the chat, and I appreciate the engagement, and everybody's talking about the personnel, and that's what I want to get into. We'll get to the secondary in a second because the secondary is something we need to talk about. But let's start up front. Let's start at where our really best playmakers on that defense is supposed to be, and that's on the edge. Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Nolan Smith, Derek Barnett. This Philadelphia Eagles team, who's supposed to be putting up a lot of sacks, is not getting a lot of pressure and sacks from the edge. Josh Sweat is the only edge rusher who's got more than 1 sack this season with 2.5. We finally saw Hassan Reddick get a sack yesterday. Let's hope that's a sign of things to come. But the edge rushers got to get more pressure. We know the defensive tackles are playing very well. But let's look at those linebackers. Let's talk about a positive before we get into that secondary, because I see you guys going nuts in the chat, and I agree with you. But let's talk about those linebackers. Let's appreciate what Nicholas Morrow is doing right now. This is a guy who couldn't make this Eagles roster, gets cut has to figure out what the hell he's going to do with his life. They bring him back on the practice squad. He's only in there because of injuries, and he is playing the best football of his career, probably of his life. Has 3 sacks yesterday. He leads the team in sacks now, which is crazy. And he is playing really well from that linebacker position. I know things are made a little bit easier for him with those D tackles in front of him. But Nicholas Morrow is playing some really good football. He's been good in pass coverage. He's been good against the run. And Zach Cunningham next to him, not playing bad. It's going to be tough for Nakobe Dean to get back on the field. The Eagles have a good problem right now at linebacker. I was concerned about that linebacker position all offseason, but Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham have stepped up and are playing very well. But let's talk about that secondary. And the chat's going nuts, and I agree with you guys on it. We have a major problem in our secondary. That injury to Avonte Maddox and the preseason injury to Zach McPherson was very, very big for this team because we do not have a third cornerback right now that I trust. Moving James Bradbury into the slot, I am not a fan of. I do not like taking an all-pro corner on the outside and moving them into the slot. You have now weakened your secondary. You're taking a guy who's an all-pro on the outside. You're moving him into the slot. He's not going to be as good in the slot as he was outside. And now you're putting Josh Jobe out there. And I see a slasher. Jobe stinks. I don't like to say anyone stinks. These guys are professionals. But what I will say is I have zero confidence in Josh Jobe on the field for this defense. And what hurt this team this week, no Sidney Brown, no Justin Evans at that safety position. We're going to talk to Dr. Radcliffe when he comes on about how long we can expect these guys out. But when Sidney Brown and Justin Evans come back, not only do we have to get Josh Jobe on the sidelines, we also have to get Terrell Edmunds out of that safety position. What I would like to see them do, have your starting safeties, Reed Blankenship, Sidney Brown. When you go to the nickel, slide Sidney Brown into the slot, have Justin Evans come into the game. I do not trust Josh Jobe. Do not trust Terrell Edmunds. So, and I see Marcus Messiah that Evans was terrible at Texas A&M. I don't know if I agree with that. I thought that Justin Evans was very promising coming out of Texas A&M. He went in the second round to Tampa Bay, had a really good, promising start to his career. The injury bug got him, and he's playing pretty well this season when he's healthy. And we'll find out from Dr. Radcliffe when we can expect Evans back. But that's what I would do. I want to hear from you guys in the chat, but that's what I would do. Sidney Brown in the slot, Justin Evans at safety, get Josh Jobe off the field, and keep Bradbury outside. But, guys, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to have my man, Mark Farzetta from The Farzy Show, my partner in crime on the JAKIB Sports Halftime Show. I want to get his take on all this stuff, so don't go anywhere. Appreciate the engagement. Hit that like button. We'll be right back.
There is a reason why the Garden Medical Spa, with 4 locations in New Jersey, has arguably the best customer reviews in America for a boutique medical spa. At the Garden Medical Spa, there is no fluff, just results. For the best in Botox, chemical peels, dermal fillers, hydrofacials, laser hair removal, and so much more, please visit thegardenmedspa.com. Book an appointment now in Voorhees, Sewell, Collingswood, or Northfield. Thegardenmedspa.com. No fluff, just results.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
My man Mark Farzetta making his first appearance on the Legal Hands to the Face show, hopefully the first of many. What's going on, my brother?
It's great to be here, man. Thank you very much for having me. The show looks great. You look great. The band sounds amazing. They're just slapping a bass like nobody's business. Everything's looking good, friend.
We are trying, but everybody knows Mark Farzetta. But if you don't know, he has the daily Farzy show every morning from 6 to 7 right here live on the JAKIB Sports Network. He also does Philly's post-game show. He's doing halftime post-game for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think he ever sleeps. Hardest working man in the business, but I appreciate you making time for us. Farzy, first thing I got to know, because there's been mixed reviews from a lot of fans. The Eagles are 4-0. But how do you feel about this team right now as we sit here today?
I'm still waiting for that complete game. The Bucks game was probably the closest thing to a complete game, if we're being honest with ourselves. Now, yesterday was the best we've seen Jalen Hurts really look all season long. So I'll take that away as a very positive thing. At 4-0, look, yes, the goal is to win every game. You want to win every game, obviously, but you also want to play at a Super Bowl level. And right now we haven't seen the Eagles play at a Super Bowl level. Hey, look, let's just look at the Dallas Cowboys for 1 second. Their scores are huge, but I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think you can rely on your defense and special teams to score continuously 50 to 60% of your points every single game. That's something that's astonishing to me. So in Dallas, they might have had blowout wins, but they're still looking at it like they could play better. Here in Philadelphia, we can obviously look at it like we could still play better. And I think in San Francisco, they want to make sure that they can have complete games, because if you look at how they started out early in the season, in the first 2 games, there was some struggles there. They might not have been that team that looked like it was going to be dominant and the team that was going to be the last undefeated team standing along with the Eagles. So every team definitely has their ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of a season. And in the first 4 games of this year, it certainly looks like the Eagles have yet to find their consistent groove offensively and defensively. So if you're taking a temperature right now, I'm sure it's very similar to how the Eagles feel in the locker room. And how do we know this? Because this is exactly what they say too. It's great to be 4-0. It's great to not have played your best game yet and still be undefeated. So for me, I'm happy they're undefeated. However, they still haven't played at that Super Bowl level quite yet as a complete team for 4 quarters as of right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. But like I said in the first segment of the show, I'm not worried about the offense. I think they're going to get there. They're still putting up a lot of points, a lot of yards. It's that defensive side of the ball that has me concerned. They haven't played any top echelon quarterbacks yet, unless you consider Kirk Cousins to be in that top echelon, which I don't.
Yeah.
And They're giving up a lot of yards to these guys. Is that your area of concern as well, that secondary, that passing defense?
Yeah, especially when you look at a couple of plays yesterday where Darius Slay, who's supposed to be your best corner, just got torched on a couple of different plays by a couple of – it wasn't just Terry McLaurin that was feeding him his lunch yesterday. He was getting burned on a couple of those plays, including that 27-yard pass in the second quarter, I think it was, where they were able to have a guy wide open to run down the sideline a little bit on him there. So I don't know if it was a failed switch or what the deal was on that play, but it looked like blown coverage right there by Darius Slay. James Bradbury, you're now mixing and matching, and I understand that you worked him out a little bit there in training camp, not really preseason, but just training camp, giving him some reps in the slot. That's not where he flourishes. That's not where he has flourished as a member of the Eagles secondary. That's not where he was arguably the better cornerback last year than Darius Slay. I don't want him playing in the slot. I'd rather have a younger guy in there that's going to have help on the outside, get that early experience, and know that later in his career, maybe he's going to get a little bit more of that help on the outside. But get his feet wet now, throw him into the fire, get him into that slot spot, and then let a guy on the outside like James Bradbury and Darius Slay as well do what they do best. I think it's better to break in somebody younger, somebody that doesn't even know what to expect yet of the NFL, and make this be the only thing that they have exposure to and see how they fare when they're thrown into the water, see if they can swim. That's what I want the Eagles to do. This is one of the things I haven't liked from Sean Desai. And I like Sean Desai. I like what he's done. I like the aggressiveness. I like that he's not afraid to dial up that blitz and all that stuff that we crave so much here in Philadelphia. But the one thing that I don't like, and I assume it's everyone putting their fingerprints on it, but Sean Desai is the defensive coordinator, so he's the guy that's got to take the heat. That's not a good idea to continue to have James Bradbury in the slot. Whoever you're going to put in that spot, whether you move Job in there, whether you're bringing in Eli Ricks, whether you're bringing in Keely Ringo, whoever it might be, I'd rather have somebody else get used to that position and make sure I at least am solid at the two outside positions as opposed to weakening two positions for the price of one. That never made sense to me.
Farzy, I couldn't have said it better myself. Right before the break, that's what I was talking about as well. I do not like them moving Bradbury inside. And I see people in the chat talking about how far off the ball these corners are playing. And Farzy had the luxury of watching the game with Seth Joyner, just like I did. And Seth,
Coach Joyner,
he was about to throw things at the TV, talking about move the corners up. But there's a guy I know that you were very high on in the preseason, and that was Sidney Brown at that safety position. Would you like to see them move him more into the slot on nickel coverage?
Absolutely. I would absolutely love to see that, because Sidney Brown's one of those guys that a lot of athletes don't have the mentality of a Sidney Brown. And that means, like, yeah, whatever. Like, sometimes athletes don't have that yeah, whatever mentality. Some athletes have that, I'm a safety and I play safety and I only play safety. Or I'm an outside corner, I only play outside. Sidney Brown, I think, wants to do whatever gets him onto the field. And I thought in the limited amount of time that we saw him out there, I thought he held his own well for a guy that really hadn't played that spot at the NFL level, of course. So I would love to see him get more of an opportunity. Plus, in the slot, you want to see a guy be a little bit more physical. And he, of course, is not afraid to play a physical role as either a corner or either as a safety. So I would love to see that. And he does have that type of mentality that every single coach wants out of somebody. You know, we got the baseball playoffs starting tomorrow in South Philly. Everybody talks about a bullpen arm as a guy that will take the ball every single day, no matter what. Sidney Brown, when healthy, is a guy that's up for any challenge no matter what. And that's a guy that coaches dream about. So I would love to see Sidney Brown play in the slot more.
I've been saying since they drafted Sidney Brown, and I still believe it, once this guy puts it together, he is going to be a fan favorite in this town with how he throws his body around, how aggressive he is. He just needs to put it together. It looks like he's grown week after week, but let's hope he can get healthy. We'll talk to Dr. Radcliffe in the next segment to see, can we expect Sidney Brown back next week? But I want to get Farzi's take on a couple of decisions yesterday. The first one comes from the Washington Commanders. When they scored that touchdown, and they were down by 1, you instantly turned to me and said, they're going for 2. It's Riverboat Ron. Right?
It was me, you, Seth Joyner, Derek Gunn. I think Mikey Miss was just walking out to the set. And Seth had said, you know, if they score here, they're going for 2. And I'm like, you're damn right they're going for 2. It's Ron Rivera. Of course they're going to go for. Plus, do you really want to roll the dice with your team going into overtime when you finally have the Eagles on the ropes a little bit? You got momentum on your side. I was shocked that they didn't go for 2 on that. Not just because it's Riverboat Ron, but it's because you had the best opportunity right there with the Eagles on their heels to try to cash that in. Now, as we know now, Ron Rivera said after the game that his team was gassed. I think an athlete could get up for one more play, especially if the game's on the line. And on the post-game show, they were talking about it. Mikey Miss and Gunner and Seth were kicking it around. And as I'm standing there, because I was doing the side hit that you were so gracious to do for us during the pregame show, where you have the majestic Battleship New Jersey behind you. It's just, what a great shot it was.
Big cannons to your left.
Oh, the big cannon. So I'm bringing it down, and I'm like, well, hold on a second. There was a play last year where somebody went for it because they were talking about how nobody does it. Somebody was talking about how nobody does it. Couldn't remember who it was. And I was like, I was like, the Giants did it. I'm pretty sure Brian Dable did it. And I, real quick, people pop on the phone, went back, looked at this Giants schedule last year. It was the first game of the season that future coach of the year, Brian Dable, dialed up the 2-point conversion against the Tennessee Titans. They scored to make it a 20-19 Titans advantage. And Dable looked at the guys on the sideline and said, I want to go for it. What do you guys want to do? And at that point, I mean, what are you going to tell an athlete to do? Like, back off? No, you're going to tell them they want to be more aggressive in that instance. So everybody to a man said, let's go for it. They went for it. They went for the 2-point conversion. They got the 2-point conversion. There was about 1:09 left in the game, and the Giants ended up winning that game 21-20. I thought it was going to be a similar situation for Ron Rivera, especially knowing his history. And I give all the credit in the world. Man, Sam Howell balled out yesterday. I mean, he was sacked 5 times. You would never know it by the way he actually played the game. That guy was never rattled. I give him a lot of credit for being hit 15 times, being sacked 9 times against the Bills just a week ago. And then he comes in here and gets sacked 5 times, and he just brushes it off his shoulder and keeps going. He showed me something yesterday. I was impressed with him. But as far as that play goes, if I'm Ron Rivera, I'm handing the ball to my offense. And I say, hey, keep it going. Win it right here. Win it right here. And I don't know. I can't imagine a professional athlete in that moment when you're 9 to 10 point underdogs. Not that they're thinking about that, but we are. No, I'm going to try to win this game right now. I thought I was just flat. I was beside myself that Ron Rivera didn't go for 2.
Same. And as an Eagles fan, I'm happy they didn't go for 2.
Oh, yeah. I did not feel good. Because Josh Jobe was going to get targeted again, probably.
Exactly. That's why I thought they were going to do it. I know he said his offense was gassed. The defense was gassed.
Yeah.
And they were on their heels. I think if the Commanders go for it there, we may be talking about the Eagles as 3-1. But hey, we're 4-0. Bad decision by the Commanders coach. We would have been crucifying Sirianni, I think, if he didn't go for 2. Mm-hmm. But there's another decision I want to talk to you about, and this is now from the Eagles' perspective, and somebody already asked it in the chat. The touchdown pass to A.J. Brown there in the fourth quarter. It's a 24-24 game. There's 1:49 seconds left on the clock. You're 2nd and 4 from the 28-yard line. Do you think the Eagles should have ran the football there, run the clock down, kick a last-second field goal and end the game? Or were you okay with the aggressiveness by Jalen Hurts and that Eagles offense to go for the end zone?
So the great big book of football, right? Every sport has their own book, and this is what you do, and you go by the book, right? I didn't mind it at the time. I'll take you through my emotions leading up to that particular play. For whatever reason, I just had fumble. Don't fumble. Fumble. Don't fumble in the back of my life. Don't turn the football over. And I don't know if that was scarring from last year and the game against Washington in South Philly and how many times the Eagles turned the football over 4 times in that game, or if it was just like everything's going the Eagles' way right now. Don't mess it up. Don't mess it up. Don't mess it up. So in my head, I'm already thinking don't turn the ball over. No, nothing cheap, nothing like that. So when I saw Jalen Hurts drop back, and when his arm got to about here, when he actually reeled back like he was going to throw it deep, I went, my first thought was no. And then I saw A.J. Brown single covered, man beat, end zone, only thing in front of him. And I went, all right, put up 7. You got minute 40 left in the game? I trust the defense. And then everything else after that, I hated because A.J. Brown essentially gives them 11 yards when you consider the fact that they return the ball to the 36-yard line. He gives them 11 yards on that drive to start things off, unfortunately. So for me, I hated the taunting call. I wish that they then did not go for the deep ball. And it's an interesting thing. I just had Hollis Thomas. We just taped an interview for tomorrow's Farzy show. And Hollis said it's the defense's job to make the stop. Your offense is supposed to put up points. Your defense is supposed to make the stop. I had a similar thought when I saw A.J. Brown get in the end zone. When A.J. Brown got called for the taunting penalty, that's where I was just like, should have just ran it out. Should have just ran it out. They only had 1 timeout left. Washington did. Should have just ran out the clock. Should have went by the book. This is what we get for being aggressive. Damn it. And I saw somebody else say that as well when it came to being aggressive. if the Eagles don't throw that touchdown pass, and let's say the Eagles, drive a little bit more, milk the clock, get the field goal. Let's say they miss the field goal, then you're penalized for being not aggressive enough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, the likelihood of the Eagles winning the game if they just kept running the football game is what? 90%. If they give the ball back to the opposing team, what does it drop it down to? 80? I don't know. But to me, I just thought that at the time, I liked them being aggressive. I hated everything that transpired after.
See, now I'm a little bit different than you, Farzy. In the moment, I said, oh, they should have ran the ball out. I don't like that call. I don't like that going deep there. But then now that I've had time to reflect on this, and I just did a video on my Instagram about it today, now that I've reflected, I loved the aggressiveness because we needed that. We've been talking about Jalen Hurts hasn't been the same passer he was last year. The passing game has been depleted, and they take a great shot. He throws a strike to A.J. Brown. You saw how fired up he was. And look who is on the other side, on the other sideline. It's Sam Howell. If your defense can't stop Sam Howell from driving down the field with 1 minute and 45 seconds left to score a touchdown, then you don't deserve to win the game. Luckily, we did. So it wasn't as if Patrick Mahomes was on the other side or Tom Brady. If one of those guys is on the other side, I think you play it a little bit differently. But I like the throw. I like the aggressiveness. In the moment, I didn't. But the more I thought about it, I said, you know what? Good for Jalen Hurts. Good for A.J. Brown. Let's be aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. It's been mixed, man. I put a poll on my Instagram. People are all over the place with it, but anything could happen. Anything can happen.
I thought something similar to you and how I've been breaking it down ever since it happened. Like even on the ride home yesterday from Camden, I was thinking about it, and it was like, yeah, it's Sam Howell. You should stop Sam Howell. And it's like, you really haven't been able to stop Sam Howell all day. Like Sam Howell is carved out. You have taken the man's soul, supposedly, and he just found a new soul, put that in his body, and continued to march down the field with his offense.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people in the chat, and I've heard some people today comparing it to what Patrick Mahomes did last night, though, saying, hey, look, he slid down. He didn't score the touchdown. There's a little bit of a difference there, though. The Chiefs were already winning the game. Him sliding down just ends the game. It was a tie football game. It was 24-24. You still needed points.
Yeah.
And you're not guaranteed to make that field goal. Close to a guarantee with Jake Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not guaranteed. So I liked the aggressiveness in hindsight. We will see. Hey, we're 4-0. I want to talk to you a few more minutes. We have Farzy before we get into Dr. Radcliffe. Is how pleasantly surprised are you at what we are seeing from linebacker Nicholas Morrow, who couldn't even make the practice squad after the preseason? Then they bring him back on the practice squad because of the injury to Nakobe Dean.
Yeah.
And now Pro Football Focus has him as the number 2 graded linebacker in the entire NFL, and he leads the Eagles with 3 sacks.
Yeah. Bill, I mean, Philadelphia's just a breeding ground for great linebackers, as we know.
Yeah.
You go through time, man, but all the way back to Levon Kirkland, just keep going back. I mean, we just breed. All right, anyway, I am so unbelievably pleasantly surprised by what he has done for this team. Not just for the fact that he came here, we didn't expect much to begin with. Then he gets cut, as you mentioned, and he comes back, and then he's a starter again. Him and Zach Cunningham, it is nothing short of miraculous, the job they have done. First off, Cunningham, both of them weren't here last year, as we all know, but Cunningham coming here in training camp, in preseason, getting used to his teammates, getting used to his playbook, getting used to his defensive coordinator, and flat out flourishing. I mean, how many weeks now in a row have we talked about? At least 3 or 4, pretty much every game, that these guys are playing well above the expectation. And Nicholas Morrow getting 3 sacks, I don't know what the bet was, what it looked like for him to get 3 sacks, but I would assume it would be close to something along the lines of Ben Simmons hitting a 3, like probably around plus 1,400. And he comes out there and he was Johnny on the spot. He was making play after play after play. I believe he forced that fumble, the one for the second touchdown of the game, the one that bounced around the end zone a little bit, and then they were able to fall. And I think it was McLaurin that fell on it. But Robinson had guys bouncing off him, and Morrow came in there to actually make a hit and force the ball loose, if I remember the chronology of it. But he had at least one big hit right there that helped jar that ball loose, and then comes up in the game with 3 sacks overall. Very, very pleasantly surprised with what you've been getting overall from your linebackers, not just Morrow, but also in Zach Cunningham as well. Big decisions, by the way, when Nakobe Dean comes back. What are they going to do?
Really big decisions. We'll see what they do, but I've been saying it the whole offseason that I was really concerned about that linebacker position. I didn't think we should have put everything on the Kobe Dean shoulders, a guy who had only played 34 snaps. And then they bring Nicholas Morrow in, and he obviously wasn't the right choice because they cut him, but he's really bailing out Howie Roseman. I think Howie Roseman did a great job this offseason, except he neglected the linebacker position, and he got lucky. We'll give him credit. He got lucky. Zach Cunningham, Morrow are playing the way they're playing. Let's hope they can keep it up. But one more thing for you before we let Farzy run. Big game this week going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Eagles have never played in SoFi Stadium. This will be the first time they're going to that stadium in L.A. Matt Stafford, 35 years old, but the guy can still throw the ball around. They're top 4 in the NFL in total yards per game. And Stafford's averaging over 300 yards a game, even at 35 years old. What are you thinking this week against the Rams?
Cooper Kupp's still out, right? Or is he definitely coming back? What's going on there?
I don't know if they haven't released their injury report yet, but he started practicing. And then they got this rookie, Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
39 catches, 501 yards in 4 games. The most ever by a rookie in the NFL. This guy was drafted in the 5th round. And I saw an interesting stat today too, Farzy. Cooper Kupp in his Triple Crown year, where he had the most yards, the most receptions, and I think, was it the most touchdowns?
I believe so, yeah.
He had less catches and less yards after 4 games than what Puka Nacua has right now.
I don't know who had the game yesterday, but I went back and I watched the extended highlights on it, and I don't know who said it, but it was something along the lines of Nacua Matata. It means no worries. And I'm like, I want to hate that, but that's pretty awesome. Look, what did we start talking? What did this conversation start with after hello, Bill? It started with our concerns about the cornerback position and slot corner position for the Eagles. And if you're going to let a guy like Sam Howell carve you up, if you're going to let wide receivers like that carve you up, well, these are some piping hot receivers. I don't care if it's going to be Cooper Kupp's first game back. It's still Cooper Kupp. So I have my concerns about it. Without the shadow of a doubt, you need everyone in the secondary to be ready to go, and they can carve you up. And Sean Desai, this is going to be a huge test for him because we've talked about Jalen Hurts facing good defensive coordinators. We haven't necessarily. We have not. Maybe Eric Bieniemy, Bill O'Brien, but I don't think Bill O'Brien's great. They needed at least an offensive mind finally in New England to make some calls, but. This is pretty impressive what they're going to be facing as far as a chess match between Sean McVay and between Sean Desai. This is going to be a huge measuring stick for how good Sean Desai is as a defensive coordinator because we have seen the Hurts, Sirianni, Brian Johnson matchups before with some pretty stout defensive-minded coaches and coordinators. This is going to be the first real test when it comes to what Sean Desai can do when they put that chessboard out and all the pieces on the table and see who gets checkmate, because this is going to be the biggest test for Desai.
And it's not easy traveling cross country like that. We know every single week people talk about that. It's a little bit easier for the East Coast team going west than the West Coast team coming east, but they got a big travel date. It's coming on the heels of a NFC East division matchup that they just had. So you're right. It's a big test. Let's hope they get some of these players back on the defensive side of the ball. And I've been told by our producer, Xander, we have Dr. Radcliffe in the waiting room. So I'm going to let Farzy get back to his kids. I heard them screaming in the background a little bit.
You did? Yeah, that was Monaluz. That was Manuela, man. She might not have her mac and cheese yet.
I hear you, man. I hear you. I got 2 myself, so I know how it is, brother.
All right, man.
But I really appreciate you making time. Check out the Farzy show every morning from 6 to 7. He just gave you a little teaser. He's got Hollis Thomas on the show tomorrow.
Oh, he's got amazing things to say about Sean Desai, man. It is. If you don't agree, it's still entertaining. I guarantee you.
And if you're not up at 6 o'clock in the morning, don't worry because it stays on YouTube. That's the beauty of the way we do it. It'll be up all day, really, forever. So
and
check.
Fighting's post game tonight or tomorrow night. Tomorrow night after the 8:08 start time, Phillies starting their series with the Miami Marlins. I'll be on right after that for Fighting's post game as well.
Love it, man. Red October. Nothing
Red
better.
October.
So thank you, Farzy. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have Dr. Radcliffe. Stay tuned, guys.
There is a reason why the Garden Medical Spa, with 4 locations in New Jersey, has arguably the best customer reviews in America for a boutique medical spa. At the Garden Medical Spa, there is no fluff, just results. For the best in Botox, chemical peels, dermal fillers, hydrofacials, laser hair removal, and so much more, please visit thegardenmedspa.com. Book an appointment now in Voorhees, Sewell, Collingswood, or Northfield. Thegardenmedspa.com. No fluff, just results.
Are we back live, Xander? I guess we are. So we are back live. We're going to bring in Dr. Radcliffe. I thought the break would be a little bit longer, but we are here. So here comes Dr. Radcliffe. He was rearing and ready to go.
Yeah. I heard Farzi's kids screaming in the background. It's a miracle mine haven't jumped in and started screaming so far. They're big Eagles fans. So my shout out to my kids Donna and Christian.
We'll have to grab them on one of these times. Yeah, my kids always ask too, can we come on, Daddy? Can we come on? But then I put them in front of the camera and they clam up. But the good news, Doc, I can hear you today. For those of you who were watching last week.
Oh, yeah.
I got to make this clear. That wasn't my fault. It wasn't Dr. Radcliffe's fault. I found out that there was a glitch on the Explorer that I was using after the show. So Dr. Radcliffe is here, and I can hear him, thankfully. Everyone else could hear you last week, just me.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, Doc, you're back. We got more injuries to talk about.
Yeah.
And this team, they were so healthy last season. They had all 22 starters from opening day play in Super Bowl 57 last season.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be the case this year, the way things are going. But another big injury yesterday, potentially a big injury. Cam Jurgens, starting right guard, he's been playing really well for this team. He left in a walking boot. There's been some reports that there was a sprained foot. He may be out a few weeks. What are you hearing? What can you tell us?
Yeah, likewise. It's unfortunate. He sounds like since he's able to weight bear, it's not a fracture. The X-rays ruled out a fracture. The MRI that was done, I think today, just showed a sprain, a severe sprain. The fact that he's able to weight bear on it is encouraging. I would estimate probably in the order of 2 to 3 weeks. Just depending on, depending on how he progresses. I'm sure right now they're icing it and, giving him a bunch of anti-inflammatories and just trying to let it calm down. He'll be out though for a couple weeks.
And when he comes back, is that something that you risk re-injuring, or is it something that's pretty good once you come back from that thing?
With all of these guys and all these injuries, it's often an acute on chronic process. So they get, microscopic damage to the muscle and tendon over time. And then and then some event occurs where it's just, too much and it exceeds the ability of the ligament to hold. So I think there certainly is a risk of re-injury, but for the most part, an isolated, foot strain is not as high risk as other things, because they can tape it and kind of support the foot much more than they can other joints like the shoulder or the knee.
Now, is the injury that Jurgens sustained similar to what we were talking about with Nakobe Dean a few weeks ago, or is it a different type of injury?
I don't know. They haven't released specifics, and I don't have any back channel information on the specific injury, so I don't know. Nakobe obviously is still out, but the thing was ominous about Nakobe Dean was that as soon as it happened, they predicted he was going to be out for a couple of weeks. This one, it sounds like it's kind of more of a week-to-week decision.
So yeah, that is a good sign. And somebody just asked in the chat, Doc, and I don't know if you have any familiarity with Derek Carr. Derek Carr played with an AC sprain, the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. They're asking, what is the usual timeout for that injury? What can you tell us about an AC sprain?
Yeah, so it's usual. So the AC joint is the acromioclavicular joint. It kind of connects the collarbone to the shoulder, and obviously it's really important in throwing athletes. The typical time out of play for an AC sprain is about 2 or 3 weeks. There are different degrees of AC sprain, like ranging from a complete tear of the ligaments to just like an inflammation. And without knowing the details and the specific type of strain, it's hard to speculate exactly, but I would estimate at least 2 or 3 weeks.
So he came back and played through it. So that's pretty gutsy on Derek Carr's part for sure. Is that similar to a separated shoulder, an AC sprain?
Yes, yes, yes. So, I mean, they can play with it. It hurts. I'm sure it affects his precision and his strength ultimately. But like playing through it is not necessarily going to further damage the shoulder within reason.
It's more just like a pain threshold type thing.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, I think you were watching me and Farzy, and one of the areas of concern we have, which I think a lot of people have, is the secondary for this Philadelphia Eagles team.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were very thin in the secondary spot this weekend because both Sidney Brown and Justin Evans were ruled out.
Yeah.
Sidney Brown with a hamstring, Justin Evans with a neck. Let's start with Sidney Brown and his hamstring. What could we be expecting with him? When can he come back? And would he be 100%?
Yeah, so the recovery for hamstring injuries kind of follows 3 phases. They have to be able to walk like kind of pain-free before they can start running. And it's really running that puts a lot of strain on the hamstring. I think you can infer from the fact that he didn't practice, because it's my understanding Sidney Brown did not practice, that he's still kind of in that like phase one of being able to walk in a pain-free manner and or being able to run at like submaximal speeds. He's got to be able to run at close to his maximal speed before he can get back into the game. So unfortunately, I think it looks pretty ominous, and it's probably going to be another week or so before he's back. You follow the practice participation in that regard. Justin Evans participated in practice and was questionable for the game. And so I think that, we obviously neck injuries can run the gamut from sprain or strain all the way to major herniated discs. In this case, it sounds like it's more the former, a soft tissue injury like a strain or sprain. And I'm encouraged that he's already back practicing. And I think we probably can expect him back for the game against the Rams.
So good news. Hopefully Justin Evans is coming back. Bad
Yep.
news. You would anticipate Sidney Brown maybe being out for another week at least.
Yeah. I heard the last section, and I agree. Sidney Brown is a powerful player, but I just don't think I don't think he's going to be back in time.
And he has his hamstring injury, and another player on the Eagles with a hamstring injury was Quez Watkins, who did not play this week. Similar type of deal where he needs to get back to practice before we can hope to see him back.
Yeah, so we want to see full participation in practice before they can get back, because it's not necessarily like a pain threshold thing. I mean, when they're sitting down or just doing low impact activities or exercising, they might be able to get by without pain, but they've got to be able to run pain-free in order to be effective and to be able to play safely.
I hope Quez Watkins is okay. Hope he gets back out there, but I'm not in any rush to get him back to that wide receiver 3 position. I think Olamide Zaccheaus, local kid from St. Joe's Prep, has stepped up and made the most of his opportunities. A lot of people in the offseason were saying, hey, Eagles need to upgrade wide receiver 3, and Zaccheaus has made a lot of big plays, was blocking downfield on that A.J. Brown touchdown. So
I saw that. Yeah.
I'm not in any rush for Quez to come back, and even if he does, I think you got to keep giving reps to Olamide.
Yeah.
Let's jump to another team, and this affects the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford, obviously this past weekend, had some sort of hip injury, and he fought through it, but he's 35 years old. This is a guy who's been very tough throughout his career playing through injury. There's really no details, but he hurt his hip. What can you expect from a quarterback with a hip injury? I know we don't know the full extent of the injury, but how could that affect his mobility and his ability to throw the ball?
Well, first, I'm troubled that we're referring to 35 years old as over the hill, and I just want to put that out there.
I'm over 30. I'm over 35.
Yeah, as am I.
We got to realize
So-
when we're talking
Well,
NFL,
he's 35 years old. He's a
NFL
dinosaur.
years are different than regular
Yeah.
years, man. There's a reason
Yeah.
I picked up golf over the last few
Yeah.
years. Man. I can't
Yeah.
do anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. So with that disclaimer, I obviously without knowing the nature of the injury, I mean, if it's just something like a soft tissue injury, you know, like the hip abductor muscle is the muscle that lifts the leg out laterally, and if it's just a soft tissue injury like to the gluteus maximus or medius, then it'll be just quick and resolved. I think that you could infer that it probably is some sort of soft tissue injury like that from the fact that he continued to kind of play through it. If he really had, I don't know, something more ominous like a non-displaced femoral neck fracture or something like that, he wouldn't have been able to play through it. So I would expect him to just play with pain.
Yeah, and he said right after the game when they asked him about the hip injury, he said, "Oh, you don't have to worry about that. I'll be out there." So
Yeah,
really
he
nothing
did
for
say
them.
that, yeah.
Nothing for them to really be worried about. Well, guys, we're going to be bringing on Dr. Radcliffe every Monday night at 7:30 to talk about the injuries. Dr. Radcliffe, you've heard me say it before, is one of the most educated, respected men I know. Harvard University, Duke Medical School, very intelligent, great doctor. You can find him at the Spinal Disc Center in Cherry Hill and down the shore, right, Doc?
Yep, and down shore. Thank you.
So check him out, Spinal Disc Center. Dr. Radcliffe, appreciate you taking the time, and we will connect again next week. We're going to take one more quick break. When we get back, we'll take a quick look around the NFL and a little preview of the Eagles' Week 5 matchup against the Los Angeles Rams. Stay tuned, guys.
There is a reason why the Garden Medical Spa, with 4 locations in New Jersey, has arguably the best customer reviews in America for a boutique medical spa. At the Garden Medical Spa, there is no fluff, just results. For the best in Botox, chemical peels, dermal fillers, hydrofacials, laser hair removal, and so much more, please visit thegardenmedspa.com. Book an appointment now in Voorhees, Sewell, Collingswood, or Northfield. Thegardenmedspa.com. No fluff, just results.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. This is going to be the final segment. We'll take you guys all the way up to 8 o'clock. Got a big Monday night football game tonight. The New York Football Giants at home against the Seattle Seahawks. I'm taking the Giants tonight. I don't really think they are a great team, but I think they are in desperation mode a little bit, 1-2. Obviously, our Eagles are 4-0. I think the Giants need this game. I'm expecting them to beat the Seattle Seahawks tonight, but we will see. What do you guys think on that? Leave some comments below. Really appreciate the support, guys. This is our third week, I guess fourth week now on the JAKIB Sports Network. So this is our fourth week on the JAKIB Sports Network, and I have a big announcement. We are really, really excited. In addition to running the Legal Hands to the Face show every single Monday night at 6:30, we are officially announcing I will be hosting a brand new show starting tomorrow, Monday through Friday, right here on JAKIB Sports, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., Philly Sports Power Hour. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a strong emphasis on the Eagles, obviously, but we'll talk all Philadelphia sports. We'll go a little bit Phillies, little Sixers, little Flyers, anything that is topical, but with a heavy, heavy lean towards the Philadelphia Eagles. So be on the lookout for that. The Philly Sports Power Hour with yours truly. Really excited about this partnership with the JAKIB Sports Network. So now JAKIB Sports has you covered pretty much all day. You're going to have the Farzy Show from 6 to 7. You're then going to have Birds 365 with Jody Mack and John McMullen from 8 to 10. You'll have me on the Philly Sports Power Hour from 10 to 11. That'll then go right in to Sports Take with Rob Ellis and Derek Gunn from 11 to 2. And then Dan Cilio on the National Football Show from 2 to 6. So you get all your Philadelphia sports talk right here on the JAKIB Sports Network. Be sure to like, subscribe, share it with all your friends. Let's make that Philly Sports Power Hour the best hour of your day. So be sure to like, subscribe. We go live tomorrow at 10 a.m. So I asked you guys, leave me some comments, ask some questions for the final segment. And Dank Kelly Green Burrito, why are Eagles fans such babies these days? Not sure what you mean there. I am assuming you're talking about Eagles being 4-0 and we're still not happy. I can only assume that is what you are talking about here. And the way I opened my show, and I'm going to close the final segment with this as well, we need to enjoy the ride, guys. I really think if you look at last year, that was a magical season. And Dank just clarified, as soon as we win, it's always how we win. That's what we do. And if I tweeted out today, I said, look, I'm going to be analytical because that is what I do. But let's enjoy this 4-0 start. And we made this mistake last year. We had a magical season last year. But all year, as they were piling up the wins, everybody wanted to just talk about, oh, are they going to be able to do it in the playoffs? Oh, who are they playing? Are they going to be able to beat good teams? And sometimes I think we forgot to enjoy how magical of a season that was. And I don't want us to miss out on what is going on right now. This Eagles team is doing things that no Super Bowl loser's done in 25 years. Jalen Hurts is doing things that not many quarterbacks have ever done, winning 21 of his last 22 starts. Nick Sirianni is winning games at an unprecedented clip for an NFL head coach. We need to appreciate it. Yes, there's things they need to improve. No doubt about it. There's things that need to improve. There's decisions that need to be changed. There's personnel that needs to be upgraded. But at the end of the day, this is a really good team, and we need to enjoy this ride. Don't forget that. Don't forget it. Talking about personnel, before we finished our segment with Dr. Radcliffe, we talked a little bit about is Quez Watkins coming back. And you heard me mention Olamide Zaccheaus. I was a big proponent in the offseason of bringing in competition to compete for that wide receiver 3 position, because I did not think that Quez Watkins was the answer at wide receiver 3. Last year, you expected Quez Watkins' production to drop off. You brought in A.J. Brown. It was another year of Devontae Smith in this offense. So you did expect Quez Watkins' production to drop. But what you didn't like to see is that his yards per reception dropped significantly. And if Quez Watkins is supposed to be your burner who's taking the lid off of a defense, supposed to be keeping those safeties honest, his yards per catch should not be dropping, especially when he's getting less receptions. If anything, we should have saw his yards per catch go up, and we saw it drop. And we also saw Quez Watkins make too many mistakes last season. Turnovers, drops. Still, I'll never get over the drop in Super Bowl 57. But Olamide Zaccheaus, in 2 games now, has come up big in both games. Had a great touchdown catch last week against the Tampa Bay Bucks. Made a really great catch on 3rd down yesterday. And what was even more impressive is blocking downfield on A.J. Brown's touchdown. I like Olamide Zaccheaus as our wide receiver 3. And there were some reports today, and it was shared here on the JAKIB Sports Network on their Twitter, is that an NFC East scout said that the Philadelphia Eagles may look into Chase Claypool, who's not happy in Chicago. I personally would not make a move for Chase Claypool. What do you guys think? If you're following along in the chat, let me know what you think. Would you make a move for a guy like Claypool to come in here for your wide receiver 3? I don't like what it does for our chemistry in that wide receiver room. I don't think we need him. I think Olamide Zaccheaus is just fine. And who we really need to get going is Dallas Goedert. And Jason A-Team just said it, talking about Dallas Goedert. He's a guy we have to get going on this offense. And I think he will. But if the defenses are doing things to take him away, that's why you're going to see A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith shine. But I have to believe, if I am the Los Angeles Rams, you have to go into this game and try to take A.J. Brown out of the game. You can't have a guy go for 9 catches, 175 yards. A.J. Brown is an absolute beast from the wide receiver position. I love the way he plays that position. He plays wide receiver like he's a linebacker. Very, very physical. And I've never seen a wide receiver that not only is that physical, but that once he gets the ball, he is so good in open space. He gets, we love to say, yak, yards after catch. Well, A.J. Brown is one of the best yak receivers I've ever seen on an Eagles team, and he's so damn physical. I love it. Can't take taunting penalties. Don't like to see some of the things we've seen on the sidelines, but he's a good dude. That's the reason I don't really get too worked up when I see things with A.J. Brown. And I know some people say he's selfish and he wants the ball, and I get it. But at the end of the day, I don't think A.J. Brown is a bad guy. And not that guys like T.O. were bad guys off the field, but they were tough teammates. T.O. was a tough teammate. He did things that made it uncomfortable for his team. I don't think A.J. Brown makes people uncomfortable. He wants the ball, and he wants the ball because he legitimately thinks if he has the ball in his hands, it gives the team a better shot to win. So I'm okay with A.J. Brown's behavior, if you want to call it that, because at the end of the day, he is a good dude. He does seem like he is a good teammate. Him and Devontae Smith seem to have a great relationship, and we know how good A.J. Brown's relationship is with Jalen Hurts. But we started this conversation about the wide receiver 3 position. I like Olamide Zaccheaus there. I would not bring in Claypool into that wide receiver room. One thing I would be considering, if I was Howie Roseman, is upgrading our secondary. And it's tough because you got a lot of young guys, and you don't want to have to say goodbye to any of these players. I still think Josh Jobe has a chance to be a good corner in this league, but he has not shown it. while he's had his opportunities. And I have no faith that Josh Jobe is the answer in the secondary. And we talked about it before we had Farzy, and then Farzy reiterated it. I don't like moving Bradbury inside. I don't like moving Bradbury inside and keeping Jobe on the outside. So we will see what Sean Desai and this Philadelphia Eagles team does, especially this week, because this LA Rams team, they weren't very good last year because Matthew Stafford was hurt, but he is back. And I know he's 35 years old, and we talked about that. He's averaging over 300 yards a game. And I think, and I don't think this is a crazy statement to make, that he is by far the best quarterback this Eagles team will face so far this season. Better than Mac Jones, better than Sam Howell, although Howell played well yesterday, better than Baker Mayfield, and I think Matthew Stafford is better than Kirk Cousins. So you have him coming to town. Excuse me, the Eagles are going to him. And Matthew Stafford in that offense, they are top 4 in the NFL in yards per game, averaging over 300 yards a game. He has turned the ball over 5 times. He has 5 interceptions. But one of the areas that this Eagles defense has been so successful with has been generating interior pressure on quarterbacks. Our defensive tackles are really good this year. You guys know Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, even Marlon Tuipulotu getting involved last week. But that's a strength on this Rams offensive line. Their center, Coleman Shelton, very good. Probably the best center they'll face so far this season. Their guard, Kevin Dotson, absolute stud. So it's going to be tough. I still think our Eagles front can get there. These D tackles, very difficult to block. But this interior of the Rams offensive line is very, very good. So it's going to be more important than ever for our edge rushers to cause pressure on Matthew Stafford. And we've been watching Matthew Stafford for a long time. He's not the most mobile quarterback. If you can cause pressure and you can make him uncomfortable in that pocket, you can cause him to make some mistakes and not allow him to get the ball downfield. But this was being said in the chat. Seth Joyner talked about it yesterday. Our corners have to stop playing so far off the damn ball. Get up on these receivers. Get in their face. Jam them off the line of scrimmage, especially if you are bringing pressure. We knew what Sam Howell was going to try to do. 2-step drop, get rid of the football. Get up on the receivers. Don't give him easy throws. These wide receivers are good on the Rams. Really good. I don't know if Cooper Kupp's going to play, but we talked a little bit about this rookie, Puka Nacua. Unbelievable what Puka Nacua is doing. I mentioned it to Farzy. I'll say it again. In 4 games, 39 catches, 501 yards is the most ever by a rookie in the history of the NFL. You're talking about Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Justin Jefferson. Some of the best wide receivers in history have not put up a stat line like Puka Nacua has in his first 4 games. So the Eagles have their hands full. And Dr. Radcliffe said he'd be very surprised if we saw Sidney Brown this week. So I don't know what Sean Desai and this Eagles defense does, but they definitely have their hands full with this team. And we talked a little bit about in the first segment that this defense needs to be better on 3rd down, and they need to be better in the red zone. Well, that's a strength for this Los Angeles Rams offense. They are number 7 in the NFL on 3rd down. They are number 11 in the NFL in the red zone. This Eagles defense needs to figure it out because they are not doing a very good job of getting off the field. They are currently 28th in the NFL in the red zone, allowing teams to score touchdowns 73% of the time. And I was looking for the stat in the first segment. I couldn't find it, and I did find it. Last year in 2022, Eagles were 12th in the NFL. They were only giving up touchdowns in the red zone 53% of the time. So they have gone from 53% to 73%. That is a drastic difference in the red zone. And I know a lot of it has to do with personnel, but you have to do things if you're Sean Desai to make sure that you are holding teams to field goals. You can't allow them to score touchdowns every time in. And it's not as if our offense has been that great in the red zone. They haven't been. They have not been scoring when they get into the red zone. Eagles are 24th in the NFL, only scoring in the red zone 46% of the time. You compare that to last season, they were 68%. So when I look at those two things, those are two of the things that I'm most concerned about if you're going to compare the 2022 team to the 2023 team. Third down and red zone. They were a lot better on offense last year, and they were a lot better on defense last year in both of those categories. They need to get back to it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're liked, subscribed to not only JAKIB Sports, but Legal Hands to the Face. I started the show, and nobody answered it in the comments. When was the last time the Philadelphia Eagles had a punt return for a touchdown? Because I think Britton Covey's going to get one this year. I think he's going to get one this year. But when was the last time? Last chance. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you know the last time the Philadelphia Eagles had a punt return for a touchdown. I'll give you a hint. It's a wide receiver that Howie Roseman will never live down. There it is. My man, Dank Kelly Green Burrito. Green Bay 2020, Jalen Reagor. He had a 73-yard punt return. Hard to believe the last player to return a punt in an Eagles uniform was Jalen Reagor. And if you go back and watch the highlight, he actually drops the punt. Similar to Deshaun Jackson in that miracle at the Meadowlands #2. Reagor bobbles the punt, drops it, picks it up, takes it to the house, 73 yards. Guys, really appreciate it. Love the engagement. Make sure you like, subscribe, check me out. If you like what you're hearing, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., live here on JAKIB Sports, the very first Philly Sports Power Hour with Bill Colarulo. Appreciate the support, and as always, go Birds.